Hello everyone, how are you? I'm just going to set a timer because I could talk forever about this. You could have given me 2 hours. So I'm delighted to be here with you today. Fantastic to be in a kind of combined QQI AHEAD group. I've been following the work of AHEAD in particular for a really long time. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm an associate professor in DCU. I work mainly in the area of teacher education, and digital education and assessment are my main areas of teaching and research. My background, I did a lot of work in online education before COVID. And through my work in online education, that's how I began getting interested in the area of inclusive design. Yeah, from a learning design point of view, both of the learning experience, but also of the assessment. And one of the reasons for that is online education has a disproportionately higher number of students with additional needs and disabilities. So much so that my PhD student, Sinead Lynch, is doing a PhD on this very area. And I think she spoke at a recent AHEAD event a couple of weeks ago as well. Now, her work is in its early stages, but she is going to follow about 30 students over about a year and their lived experiences of learning and managing their studies and their disability in the online environment. So watch out for that one. I think it'll be a valuable contribution. From my research point of view, my PhD research is all about authentic assessment. So in particular, e-portfolio. So again, inclusive, authentic assessment, they do marry together. So that's a bit about me. So I teach mainly modules about digital education. And in that arena, I have been experimenting and exploring with my students generative AI. So generative AI, do you like me, myself, and I? I know. That's Pandora's box. That's an image generated by AI for Pandora's box. It's a Pixar image generation tool. Yeah, so I like the use of a bit of humor, you may have noticed as well. So I'd heard of generative AI before the big ChatGPT, so, because conferences and research in my area had been talking about it for about the last 5 years. But it really couldn't do much. And the kind of areas it was coming up in were things like in China, people were using AI and facial recognition technology to monitor student attention. So it was coming up in quite sinister ways. Also, colleagues of mine in Germany had done a very nice literature review in about 2018. And again, it was like worlds apart from now. But they had forecast some of the issues, not all of them. So when ChatGPT hit, obviously there was panic. I was quite excited, to be honest. So I entered into kind of a period of, as you can see there, exploration, experimentation, awareness. And I started doing this by myself. So the first thing I did was take all the assessments that I had in my modules and see could ChatGPT write them. And then I marked them using the rubrics I had. And even, I think that was ChatGPT 3, it could pass. So my interest was piqued. And then my university and QQI, NAIN started providing CPD and exploring the area, and I engaged with that too. While I was engaging myself with this area, I engaged with my students. So I brought them on the journey with me, and I've continued to do that. And my university's position has been quite open-minded, I think. The kind of advice was lecturers could decide to either design in or design out. Now that's about a year and a half ago. I suppose now I realise there is no design out. That is the context we're in. There is no measure that can stop it. So really integration is the only way forward. So just to flag a bit of my work on this area, if you're interested, this is a big international paper. This is a nice research project I have going in DCU. So I'm following staff and student teaching, learning and research practices in the area of assessment and AI. So I've done quite a large data collection of staff, and I'm about to do the student one now. And there's millions of people involved. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. A special issue of the journal I'm editor of, the Irish Journal of Learning Technology, IJTEL. In this, we allowed authors to use generative AI. So what we asked them to do was to do a piece of research, either a position paper, a book review. We had about 10 different items you could do. And then we asked them to write it using any generative AI tool. And then we asked them to reflect on the process. Think about what the tool did well, what did it do badly, what did they learn? And this was a huge learning experience for us, the editors, but also for the authors. And I think this model is the way forward in terms of assessment, and this is the model I'm using. Because we can't design it out, you may as well lean in. But if you ask for transparency, you ask for, in any piece of assessment, what I'm doing is asking for a little section where the student says, I use this is why, and this is what I learned. This is how I used it. So transparency. They can include screenshots, they can include links, if that's relevant. So this has been the approach I've taken for, I don't know, a year and a half, and it's worked quite well. I don't think I need to go over why we're worried. But one thing I do want to highlight is Bloom's taxonomy. Again, teacher, educator. Once a teacher, always a teacher. But the thing I realized after some time of thinking and working with AI is it really undermines the ability to assess with validity the lower order of Bloom's. Yeah? So if that's something you want to do, but my perspective is at university, we shouldn't be assessing that. Yeah, we should be assessing at least from apply and up. So that's how I'm framing my assessment. All of it is applied, it's very project oriented, it has a lot of choice built in, so I'm a big fan of UDL, choice, multimodal, transparency, tell me about the process. So that's how I'm navigating it. Often I build little scenarios or case studies and students design solutions to those. So for example, I'm working with a master's group at the moment who are learning and development students, and I've given them a scenario where a company has just got a new client, the European Association for, I think, the Blind, and they have to design a learning and development course to upskill the company on how to design in an accessible and inclusive way. Yeah, so that's the brief. So applied, scenario-based, and then the solution the students have is quite open. So they can design any kind of online course with any type of activity, any resource. They can use AI to generate content, video. As long as they tell me what they've done and why, they can do what they like. So I very much follow this perspective that, you know, this isn't a new thing. AI is just the latest technology. We've been, you know, technology and education have been entwined since chalk, since the printing press, since cave paintings. It's a new technology. They've always been intertwined. You know, there's so much panic or panic-gudgy, which is a fantastic word, in the area of education and technology. It's, again, just another thing. It's the same as the calculator, it's the same as the internet. We just have to figure out how we navigate it. So, one thing that does interest me a lot is the AI tools themselves. How inclusive are they? So that I asked, I think it was DALL-E, to give me images of a professor. So you can see there what it thinks a professor looks like. A white dude with glasses. Now, after many, many tries, I got the image on the right, which was a more inclusive from a gender, ethnicity point of view. So the AI themselves, it's not just how we train them. So the tools like ChatGPT are trained on data from the internet. So the training data sets are usually huge sets of data scraped from all sorts of places. It could be social media, it could be Wikipedia. Wikipedia is one of the most heavily used data sets. But the code itself is written primarily by white men in Silicon Valley. And that makes it biased. But if you think about it, it's a reflection of society's bias. Yeah? But this is something we have to keep an eye on. Oh yeah, there I am, I'm already finished. I'm going to whip through the last few. A couple of things I found really useful. The whole idea of critical AI literacy. So it's a combination of digital literacy, but also the concept of media literacy, internet safety. It combines a lot of aspects. This framework by Southwark is very nice. It's got learning outcomes developed. But even more useful for me is this framework by Kaplan-Rakowski there. These are all really new research as well. But this is the stages of integration, and it maps to Bloom's. And I have been using this with my students, but I've also been using it with my colleagues. So I've been doing a lot of speaking about AI. So this is some of the ways I've applied it. And don't worry, I'll wrap it up, Roisin. I'm well aware I'm over time. So these are some of the activities in teaching, learning, assessment that I've been doing with my students. So critical discussions is a big thing. Having chats like this with students and colleagues, I think, is really important, because I think there's a lot of fear and not a lot of understanding. Yeah? So we need to penetrate that. We need to make it part of conversations about academic integrity. Students don't even know what that word means, by the way. So one thing I often do is ask them what they think it means. Because for all our talk about referencing and academic integrity, they often really don't know. They just think it's this mysterious thing that academics want. So it fits in with assessment literacy then too. Yeah? So things I've done, show them certain tools. I was hoping to demo, but I've got no laptop. Send them on web quests. You know, send them off to find an AI tool, either in class or as a bit of homework, and bring it back and tell the group. That is brilliant. I learned so much from that. I got a group of 50 to do that. You know, like hive mind in action. Scenarios and ethical dilemmas, because there's a huge ethical conversation around AI. When is it ethical to use it? How is it ethical to use it? So one thing I did was develop a little scenario where Mary used AI to help her do her junior cert CBA. And then I gave that to the students and I said, you know, is that ethical behavior? Does the school have any policy on AI? Yeah? Does the State Exam Commission have any policy on AI? And do they? No. School, also no. Many schools, but actually schools are working to develop those. Then I got the students to write more, so now I have 50 of them. So I'm gonna come to wrap it up, but these are some of the things I've been doing. More recently, we've been building chatbots together using the tool Poe, and they find it hilarious, but it's also a great way of building their skills, but also their knowledge. One of my students built an AI tool that every image it generates, it puts a sombrero and a pina colada on every image. I built a chatbot called Mary. I seem to be kind of focused on Marys, but anyway, for my module that I'm teaching, my master's module. And I gave it all of the module content and assessment. And it will answer any question about the assessment, the module, anything at all. And it will even draft sample answers. And again, it was an experiment, but it's actually quite interesting, and the students like it. And obviously, they'd prefer to ask me, but if they want to ask it a quick question, like what's the word count? What's the referencing method? What does this term mean? They can ask Mary. So there she is. And that's my last slide. Thank you very much.